everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life, where we are talking about all things true crime. So if this is your first time stopping by and watching, welcome to the channel. And for everybody who is a returning 10 to Lifer, welcome back. So if you want to support the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button below, make sure that you're subscribed, and make sure that your notifications are on so that you never miss a video. As you can see, I am wearing my red flag shirt today. My 10 to Life red flag shirt, which I will also link in the description if you want to pick one up yourself. But I'm wearing it today because this case has so many red flags. Today, we are going to be discussing updates on a case that I recently covered, and it was actually one of the most popular cases that I've ever done on my channel that had all of your heads and my head spinning with just anger, confusion, frustration, and a general sense of how in the world did something like this actually happen. So today, we're going back over the case of Taylor Parker and Reagan Hancock. Now, if you haven't watched my recent video on this case, that's okay, but you might want to go back before starting or even finishing this video and watch it, as there is a lot of background details to this case. Like I said, that was one of my more popular videos. I think it has like upwards of 800,000 views. So you definitely are going to want to watch that one first if you have not already. But in short, Taylor Parker was accused and recently convicted of killing Reagan Hancock and her unborn baby Braxlyn, all while Reagan's 3-year-old daughter was in the home. Then Taylor left with the baby and pretended she had given birth in her car. Now, the crazy thing is, Taylor was not even pregnant, not ever pregnant in this situation. And some of the closest people in her life, including her boyfriend and baby daddy, were completely bamboozled by this entire thing. And a glimpse of what we went over in the previous video. I mean, there were financial schemes, a purposeful fire, family lies, a hospital bomb threat, and everything in between. Taylor was willing to go to any lengths needed to accomplish her goals. Now, for those of you that know this case and have seen my last video, I wanted to do this follow-up video to discuss all of the crazy and all of the mind-blowing details that came out in her sentencing period, the witnesses that spoke out in those hearings, and what the conclusion of the sentencing period means for Taylor. So if you remember, Taylor was found guilty of killing Reagan Hancock and her unborn daughter, Braxlyn. The sentencing period, which started on October 12th, took place in efforts for the jury to decide whether Taylor deserved life in prison or if she deserved the death penalty. And this was not like a typical sentence hearing. So much more information came to light through this, which is why I'm making this video, such as Taylor luring guards and dressing sexually and provocatively to get their attention, embezzling money, jailhouse relationships, framing other inmates, and new haunting details and confessions about that fateful day. So much information that will shock anybody listening and that will prove what a true dangerous person Taylor really is. So guys, let's jump right in.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
On October 11th, the day before the sentencing period started, supplemental documents were released for the public's viewing. These documents contain some of the latest evil shenanigans of Taylor and what she has been up to during her time in Bowie County Jail. Information in these documents varied from medical encounters and schemes, inmate relationships and attempts to frame these inmates, new confessions, Taylor's obsession with murder. I mean, just so much stuff, guys. So we're going to go bucket by bucket, starting with Taylor's financial schemes while she was incarcerated. So one of the first things that these documents discussed was Taylor and her mom scheming together financially. Taylor currently, or as of February 2022, owed over $2,200 to Bowie County for medical expenses. Now, the way that the financial situation in the jail is supposed to work is that when people put money on somebody's books, whatever they owe is deducted from that amount. Well, since Taylor doesn't want to pay it, she repeatedly had her mom, Shauna, put money on other inmates' books. Then those inmates were going to go and get her commissary for her. Taylor would pay them by giving some of her commissary items to them. Shauna also ordered commissary items for at least 10 other inmates during all of this. Yet again, they would get the commissary ordered in their name and then hand it over to Taylor. But the thing is, Taylor and Shauna are just both complete idiots because they discussed these schemes at length over the phone, over snail mail, and even emails sent to and from the jail kiosk. So it was all documented. Now, I honestly have no idea how Shauna hasn't been arrested for playing a part in these schemes because you're basically defrauding the jail. And also as a mother, she is just like a horrible enabler. There's a difference between loving and enabling a child, and her child murdered somebody and their unborn baby. So Taylor is able to make it that far, partially due to her lies about her own mother, which you'll remember in the previous video. Yet Shauna seems to have just completely turned a blind eye to that and just goes along with all of Taylor's schemes. So next we're going to talk a little bit about her provocative dressing and some of her relationships that were going down in the jail. So the next thing that these supplemental documents talked about is a clothing issue. Taylor was repeatedly ripping up her jail clothes, then complaining about it to her parents and asking for more money for new clothing. On January 5th, 2022, Taylor was on the phone with her dad and was recorded saying, "I'm in lockdown from yesterday until Friday because we have the shit crew, so not able to call again until Friday. I was trying to see if you were able to put some money on my books. I need to get new warm clothes. I've had mine for a year and there's holes in the front of them." Now, let me just clarify that. Taylor refers to the correctional officers who enforce the rules at the jail as the shit crew. So clearly she has a problem with authority and has continuously tried to maintain a sense of power in jail in any way possible. But she didn't tell her dad that she was the one ripping her clothes in order to make her clothing more revealing. Nonetheless, as her enabling parents do, he sent her money. Also, just 3 weeks later, on January 28th, Taylor told her mom, Shauna, that she needed new clothes due to holes in the front. So why would they have holes again in the front just 3 weeks later, unless it was intentional? She claims it was because she had had them for so long, but clearly she was just trying to play off both of her parents. The DA's office also put a lot of efforts into discussing Taylor's romantic life while in jail. They highlighted that her clothes were ripped solely for the sake of being more provocative, and that she would flirt with other inmates and actually had several relationships while in jail. One was with a woman named Lana Addison, who Taylor eventually told that she was tired of being lonely and tired of being around all female inmates. Then she moved on and had romantic relationships with other male inmates and began writing to inmates who were in different facilities. She began using her family, too, to get a hold of these inmates. So, as we've been able to see clearly before, her family doesn't know how to tell her no, right? So she initially went to her mom and told her to look up an inmate named Travis Blocker. Travis had apparently gone home and was released, so she wanted her mom to look him up on Facebook and message him for his email address so that Taylor could communicate with him via email. For the next couple of months, she continued to reach out to different family members to have them communicate with Travis for her. And at one point, she even said, "I need a sugar daddy to load me some money on this damn thing," laughing my ass off anything on Blocker, aka Travis. Clearly, she was just continuing her schemes of just using people for the things that she wanted and felt like she needed. In one email with an inmate named Alan Pulley, after he asked her what she was in jail for, point blank, she said, "Unfortunately, I can't talk details information-wise since I'm in pretrial. I don't go to trial until September 2022. I'm innocent. Assuming you have been to jail before, you know how unjust our bullshit system is." She then went on to say, "It does suck, but I have a great team. I have become very close with him and have all the faith that it will work out. I do freelance recruiting for manufacturing industrial plants in the kill trade departments on top of breeding and selling cattle. You can say I'm a farm girl. Please don't think I ever want anything from you. I'm a very independent, respectful person." Now, I just gotta say, I don't know what faith she had in her innocence and that her innocence was going to be found, but clearly it just did not work out that way for her. And as if that's not mind-boggling enough, she went on to write letters to yet another inmate. How many is this? 3, 4? His name was Augustine Diaz. Now, I won't go into all the details of the letter, but I will say that they were super explicit, not very YouTube friendly. And part of her email said that her ex would actually hit her if she ever even gained an ounce of weight, so that if Augustine didn't like big thighs, it wouldn't work. But then she goes on top of that and tells him that she values honesty. Yes, you heard that right if you're wondering. She literally told him that she values honesty and tells him, I've said this before, I'm so understanding, just don't lie to me. I love to build a home and family with you based on God. That's a dream and hope I will hold on to and pray for. That was followed by, I love to read, but my true joy is writing. I love every part of putting together a story. Which I just gotta say, I mean, obviously she loves putting her stories together. Stories of pregnancies, stories of fake jobs, family drama, family inheritance, being a millionaire, billionaire, whatever she had said, these bomb threats, I mean, you name it, girl has got a story for it. She's like a walking telenovela, honestly. So in a letter after that, she said, I gotta tell you, this so says Parker girl, I got some much needed D this weekend, meaning dick. Saying she told me all about it, showed me the bruises, and I said, damn, you released the tension beast. We were rolling. I said, get some bruises for me too, please. Laughing my ass off. I told her that I was so sexually frustrated that if I won, I'd be humping the light poles all the way home. Literally, just disgusting. Disgusting. So enough of her ridiculous and nasty conversations with people. Let's move on to her trying to scheme and frame other people, because this is where it gets crazy. And we're not even to the best part, guys. Like, this is going to be a long video, but it gets really, really, really crazy. We're just kind of like slowly escalating here. So the next thing that was discussed by the DA's office was Taylor's plan to frame another inmate named Hannah, who was mentally fragile, and she wanted to frame Hannah as guilty for her crime. In January 2021, Hannah gave the staff at the jail letters that she had written that supposedly contained information about the crime. But when law enforcement interviewed Hannah, it was clear that Hannah was not writing truthful things, and that something more sinister was going on here. During the interview, Hannah told them that Taylor told her to say that she, meaning Hannah, saw a black car with wheels and occupied with a black man making drug drops around the jail. Hannah was to tell them that the black car was the same vehicle that she had seen at the murder scene. So this apparently was supposed to help Taylor get off the hook here. But Hannah then took it a step further and revealed what Taylor had actually told her happened in that house with Reagan. Taylor allegedly told Hannah that when she went to Reagan's house the night before the murder, they had gotten into a very big argument. The argument was specifically because Reagan knew Taylor wasn't actually pregnant and was past her due date. Taylor told Hannah that Reagan was supposed to call Wade, who was Taylor's boyfriend who thought she was pregnant, and tell him that Taylor lost the baby while he was hauling hogs on that mission he was on. But apparently, Reagan backed out and then wouldn't do it. So then, what else would Taylor do? She said that she then decided to remove Reagan's baby from her. Then that she did CPR on baby Braxlin on the couch. She said that she watched Reagan die before leaving. And Taylor told Hannah word for word, it didn't really go as planned. By planned, she meant that she planned on taking this baby home to Wade and pretending that little Braxlin was their baby. Obviously, Taylor knew what she was doing, and she definitely knew what she was doing by trying to pull Hannah into her mess. But if you thought she was done there, you would be wrong. While she was scheming with Hannah, she also met another inmate named Shauna Ray. Shauna Ray worked for Texarkana Gazette. I hope I'm saying that right. Texarkana, yes. Texarkana Gazette is a massive newspaper company that serves 9 counties in the Texarkana area. So Taylor gave Shauna Ray a sealed envelope. In that envelope was allegedly a 13-page handwritten document. Taylor said that Hannah had given it to her and that she had actually never even read it. Her instructions to Shauna Ray were to open the envelope, copy the letter down in her own handwriting, and then destroy the copy that she had given her. Then she needed to get the copy to the newspaper. So Taylor claimed that the document, who she said was written by Hannah, had details about the events leading up to the murder and the kidnapping of the baby. But if Taylor didn't write that, how would she know what was even in there? Because remember, she said that she didn't even look at it. And if it was indeed Hannah's writing, why would Taylor be so adamant that it be rewritten with the original copy destroyed? Seems more likely that she was trying to get her copy in her handwriting documented by somebody else. But the thing here is that Taylor's stories to Shauna Rae changed a couple of different times. One time, she said that she was in Reagan's house at the time of the attack, but that she wasn't the attacker. She said she heard commotion and went to the other side of the house, where Reagan was. She said Reagan begged her to cut her belly to save the baby. She said that's when she got the baby out, and that she held Braxton up to Reagan's face and said, "Tell your mama bye." Just awful and evil. And then Taylor said when she got pulled over, the responder had mistakenly formed the opinion that she was the one who had the baby because the cord was so close. But remember, she also had stuffed the placenta in her pants. So that is, again, one of the many, not even half-truths, fractions of truths that she's telling. Later, Taylor told Shauna Rae that she had absolutely nothing to do with the crime, but she did tell her that she was faking a pregnancy and that she was going to Oklahoma to fake a miscarriage and that someone was supposed to call Wade, but last minute decided not to. So again, we're starting to see pieces of the truth start to form together based on versions she's telling all of these different players and people she's working with, but still not the outright truth. But we are going to get there. So after giving Shauna Rae these documents, she went to another inmate, Sylvia. She is just trying to play chess with everybody here, guys. Taylor gave her a document which had Mama Sylvia written on the front. In the document she handed her, she denied committing the murder once again. She also accused law enforcement of making up and withholding information that would prove her innocence. Because apparently, they're in the business of that. I mean, whatever. Maybe some people are. I don't know. Both of those letters, to Sylvia and to Shauna Rae, are believed to have been written by Taylor. So Taylor offered Shauna Rae $5,000 to get the documents to the Texarkana Gazette and that newspaper, and then she also offered Sylvia $15,000 to take the envelope out of the jail and get it delivered to the newspaper. Now, law enforcement realized that Taylor does indeed practice alternating her handwriting frequently. Multiple inmates told them that she changed her writing style often, so it would make sense that she does practice. She doesn't seem to have much else to do in jail either, so she would obviously have all the time in the world to do this. But tampering with witnesses are felony charges, so this just proves that she's still been doing illegal things behind bars. She's also offering these inmates money to help with those schemes. Now, most of those inmates are in there for drug charges, and people who have drug issues are typically willing to do anything for money for drugs so that they can get a fix, so she was still trying to take advantage of other people's weaknesses. In February 2021, law enforcement interviewed a former inmate named Phyllis Dawson. I know, guys, there are a lot of inmates here to go through. Phyllis had a letter from somebody named DC, the initials DC. So Phyllis told the agent interviewing her that Taylor told her DC, also called Detective Chris, was a detective who was helping her out so that nothing bad would happen to her and that she was going to get out. Taylor had Phyllis write a letter to this DC character, but Phyllis was obviously confused because she never got a letter back. So she gave the agent another sealed envelope that had a 10-page confessional that framed Taylor, once again, as innocent. Taylor had given Phyllis instructions to take this letter and mail it out when she was released from jail. The confessional had details that were not known to the public and would only be known to somebody who was close to the crime. So Taylor is creative, but not smart enough to double-check her sources and her information, it seems. She also isn't smart enough to find the correct people to cover for her. So Phyllis gave this agent a puzzle book, and it kind of seems like a Sudoku book or something similar. And in the book, across many pages, were instructions on where to send the documents and also instructed her to find someone to lie to the police. The writings even included a script for what the person was supposed to say and had details matching up to all the confessional letters that were written. The book also said specifically, "Be smart, Granny. Pick someone smart who will bring the details to life. Once it's done and Detective Chris says, I will mail you $500. Guys, she can't even pay off her medical bills of $2,200 that she has from the jail, and she was having all of that commissary money loaded onto different inmates' accounts. So how is she going to pay off all these people? $15,000, $5,000, $500. How does she expect to pay these people, and how do these people actually think she's going to pay them off if they're getting commissary for her as well? It makes no sense. I mean, again, not picking the brightest criminals here to do your dirty work, Taylor. In another scheme that she used to frame Hannah for the murder, as if, she hadn't done enough at this point, was to have her now jail girlfriend, Lana Addison, Shauna Ray, and another inmate named Callie be witnesses for her. She gave Lana a document with the plan and told her not to turn it over to law enforcement. The 3 witnesses were supposed to find evidence in different places throughout Bowie County and then turn that over to law enforcement. But apparently it would only work if all of them did their jobs correctly. However, before her plan could even have a chance to work, Lana had a cell shakedown, and the document was found, so the jig was up. So probably not a smart idea to write things down and give them to people when all of their things are subject to be searched at any point in time. Again, very creative, I'll give her that, but not very smart. Now, Taylor told Lana that Wade believed that she was pregnant because he was, and I quote, an effing dumbass, and that she also ordered a fake belly to attach to that to sell the story. She also said that she avoided intimacy by complaining of cramps and pain and saying that doctors apparently don't recommend sex during high-risk pregnancy. So now let's kind of shift our gears. We've talked about the inmates, we've talked about some plotting, some scheming, some relationships. Now let's talk a little bit about some medical issues, or some tall tales. Let me position it that way. Now remember all the medical issues that Taylor was claiming to have all over social media before this all went down, before the arrest. The mental health and medical claims did not stop when she went to jail. They only seemed to increase, as a matter of fact. The jail even had to change many of their procedures due to Taylor's schemes. She was calling in sick constantly to go get medical care, but was actually using that to try to flirt with her jail boyfriends and pass notes on the way to the nurse. In the documents, it released that if she wasn't completely lying about being sick or not feeling well, she was just massively exaggerating. And she was also getting furious if she wasn't handcuffed in the front instead of the back. One time she showed up to a mental health session and was apparently not handcuffed, and the mental health officer reminded the officer that she needed to be handcuffed for safety reasons. And apparently Taylor immediately just flew off the handle. Also, when she has been called in to go see the nurse, if it's not a convenient time for her to see any of her boyfriends or pass notes, she's been known to refuse to go. So they decided to just start actually examining her in her cell instead of taking her down to this designated nurses area, which also made her super upset, which I would think if she was really sick, she wouldn't care where she was seen as long as she was getting medical attention and feeling better. But again, it just proves that her whole reason for doing this was to plot, to scheme, to see people, to pass notes, to, have her own agenda. On October 15th, 2020, less than 2 weeks after the murder, Taylor was taken for a mental health crisis assessment. When asked why she was there, she responded, "I murdered a lady." She also told the crisis worker that she had a previous attempt on her own life back in 2015 after going paralyzed. She told her that she isn't eating much, had lost around 20 pounds, wasn't sleeping well, would have blackouts for no reason, and so much more. Then, less than a month later, she convinced staff she needed to go to the emergency room. When they got there, she told hospital staff that she had a history of having a stroke and had been diagnosed with factor V Leiden disorder. Now, factor V is an inherited disorder that can cause somebody to get blood clots. People are born with factor V, but Taylor was not born with it. In fact, she was tested for it multiple times, and every test came back negative. So 5 days later, she told physical therapists she was vomiting and that her head was hurting. I mean, it's just constantly something. But physical therapists who evaluated her were quickly able to see that she was purposely walking unsteady and exaggerating the entire claimed illness. She got a CAT scan of her head, a brain MRI, and an ultrasound that all came back normal. It was pretty clear that she was faking it, so back to the jail she went. Then on March 3rd, 2021, Taylor told her jail girlfriend Lana in a phone call that she had been taken to the hospital on March 21st and that she had been diagnosed with congestive heart failure. Then on April 23rd, she told Lana that she couldn't have any red dyes due to her new heart medication. But when her mom took her a commissary order the very next day, she had ordered Red Island Punch, which has those red dyes. I mean, it's not even like Munchausen's, it's just like pathological, I think. At one point, when a nurse asked her if she possibly had an STD, she said, "Oh my God, if I have an STD, I'm going to be a murderer." Hold on, you already are a murderer. And she also used all of these fabricated mental illnesses and medical illnesses to get things that she wanted in jail, such as saying that it was recommended that the lights be completely shut off at night because of her seizures and her migraines. But her medical records didn't show that recommendation, nor did they ever show seizures. She continued to make multiple bogus medical claims for things such as blood clots, a UTI, chest pain, falling, just so much. And if she didn't refuse the medical care entirely, prosecutors have basically noted that she was just a complete jerk to the medical staff and did not act in any sort of distress at all during these visits. And then if jail staff didn't do as she pleased, especially with these medical things, she was known to threaten or sue them. Again, a total master manipulator, or I guess a wannabe. Now, while awaiting trial at Bowie County, inmates receive regular counseling services if they wish. So in August 2021, Taylor told her provider that her prayer was that Reagan's family knew who she was and that she would not do something like this. She started discussing how it might be best to take a plea deal and her hatred for the real person who did this crime, which I just hope she hates herself for this. Then she talked about how she didn't want to see her kids seeing her in jail. If you didn't want your kids seeing you in jail, then you shouldn't have killed an innocent woman and her unborn child or done something to put yourself in jail in the first place. Make it make sense. She's trying to get sympathy, empathy, whatever it is. And it's like, just then, if you don't want that so badly, like, then don't do what's going to have that outcome, right? I mean, you would think it's so simple. Like I said, guys, red flags, red flags, red flags. In April of this year, she once again went to this provider. She told this provider that she was now hearing voices, which I can't say I entirely don't believe, but let's talk about it. She said that these voices bother her the most when she's reading or doing yoga, and that she argues with them throughout the day. Then in May, she told them that the voices were something that she has dealt with before. Maybe she's trying to think she's going to do an insanity plea here. You know, who knows? She told them that she was medicated for this at 11, but stopped taking the medication. Now, this is interesting because in March and July of 2021, she had told them that she was never medicated for mental health issues before. She also told them in June of 2021 that she was never treated for any mental health issues. So which one is it? Were you treated before? Were you not treated? It's time to get your story straight, Taylor. Now let's talk a little bit more about that staff treatment, because I did touch on it a little bit about her manipulation, saying she's going to sue them, saying all these things. The supplemental documents go on to discuss her antics towards jailhouse staff. If she doesn't get what she wants, she apparently will scream at them, make stories up about them, and threaten to ruin their lives. She will also scream racist and horrible remarks at them. She is also known to go back to other inmates and create stories about the staff physically hurting her, and even telling the inmates that certain staff members are talking about their cases publicly, trying to stir the pot, incite hate, get these inmates against the staff. And that happens whenever things don't go her way. Just a clearly deranged and dangerous person. So let's start talking about her obsession with murder and notoriety and, attention. So these documents go on to discuss Taylor bragging to a girl named Christina that she's writing a book about the murders and that she was also getting Netflix deals and movie deals. She said that Netflix was trying to come to the jail to film her, but the Bowie County wouldn't allow it. She also said that Lifetime and Nancy Grace both want to work with her. She also told Christina she misses her best friend Reagan and hates that people think that she could do something like this. Which, let me just say, if you really didn't do it, and if you miss someone, you wouldn't be trying to profit off their death by book deals, movie deals, Netflix deals, all of this stuff. So the rest of the supplemental document contains some more really disturbing information. Taylor has had multiple books given to her by her mom while she's been in jail, because of course one of the main things you do is read while you're in jail. Now, almost all of these books are books about murder. She spends her time reading the murder books, writing short stories about murder, and even has written a letter to the FBI offering to assist them in solving murders. And guys, we're going to talk about that letter to the FBI in a little bit here because it is just insane. But first, let's talk a little bit about her kids, the ones that she said she was so worried about seeing her in jail. She has made it clear that she's worried about how she's portrayed on social media. Also, remember, she said that she didn't want her kids to see her in jail and all of that. So she has decided to play off of her kids, mainly her 7-year-old son's emotions. She wrote him a letter saying, "Maybe daddy can let you come and see me soon, but I know you're super busy." In another letter to him, she wrote, "I sure miss your handsome face and sweet giggles with mama. Talk to you soon." Her son's dad made it clear he was not bringing him to visit her in jail, and he also made it clear that he was not allowing phone calls because when Taylor doesn't get her way or she gets upset, she's known to use her son as a pawn and say very hurtful things to him. Obviously, her son's dad is just trying to protect this poor kid, but Taylor is so selfish that she just had to write things in letter form that would make him sad. No 7-year-old deserves to suffer because of their mother, nor do they need to be, receive these manipulative letters and feel guilt-tripped by their mother for her own actions. Then, get this. She had her 10-year-old daughter help her plan her outfits for trial, also with the help of her mother, Shauna. But one of the worst parts about this is that she has used this as a way to continue to hurt Reagan's family whenever she can. Let me explain. Reagan's favorite flower was a sunflower, and her family has often worn things with sunflowers to court proceedings in remembrance of her and Braxlin. So during many court proceedings, Taylor would wear sunflower masks. Even when nobody was wearing masks, she would wear a sunflower mask in a clear effort to just take a jab at Reagan's family. Just a truly awful human being. So as far as the supplemental documents, that's where we're kind of wrap up with that because there's still a lot more, but those are the main bullets. So now let's shift over to the actual sentencing court dates because this is where information just exploded. The sentencing period started October 12th of this year, 2022, and lasted for about 4 weeks. During those 4 weeks, the jury heard from many people, including family members, jail inmates, medical professionals, and more. Prosecutors opened up the sentencing phase by discussing who Taylor is: a liar, a con artist, an actress, and a fraud. The prosecutor said that she was in this to get fame, and even making it clear that she would ask jail staff if she could stay up late to watch herself on the news. Taylor's attorney said that they were going to provide the whole picture of who she is, noting that she was a good mom who just suffered from mental health issues. So first up, let's talk about the family and some of those witness statements. One of the first witnesses was Taylor's stepmom. Her stepmom, Charlotte, described her as a good girl, but said that she would often fabricate lies to get what she wants. Her stepmom said that she did make good grades growing up, but that she was never able to take full accountability for anything. That same day, jurors heard from Tommy Way Casey's divorce attorney. Tommy is Taylor's ex. The divorce attorney testified that Taylor gave up custody of their son, who was 4 at the time of their divorce, and never paid a dime of child support. He also testified of Taylor's urgency in finalizing the divorce and how she married Hunter Parker just 11 days after the divorce was finalized. And Tommy, her ex, also spoke up. He spoke about Taylor's medical claims. He said that one day she went into the doctor walking, and when she came out, she was unable to walk. But he noticed that whenever Taylor didn't think someone was paying attention, she was magically able to walk again. He also spoke about their marriage failing, but said his son is now doing better. His new wife, Amy, also took the stand, and she said that their son does not want to read any of the letters that Taylor sends him, so she's filed them away for when he's older and ready to make that decision and possibly read them. Amy also talked about wanting a co-parenting relationship with Taylor, but quickly realized it wasn't going to be possible. Taylor frequently no-showed to her visitations, never paid child support, and did other things that apparently upset their son, Trey. Trey went with her for overnights once and came back a few days later. He had a sore on his bottom and told them that it had been 5 days since his underwear was changed. So due to Taylor's lack of care for her child, he developed a staph infection. Amy talked about the other issues with visitation, such as Taylor telling Trey it was okay to lie and crying in front of him to manipulate him into saying things and doing things. Just awful. With this, jail phone calls were played, many between Taylor and her mom, Shauna. In one call, Taylor was complaining that Tommy, her ex, wasn't letting her talk to her son, Trey. Shauna actually said, "If you'd been thinking about the children that you had on Earth, you might not be in the situation that you're in. But what's done is done, and you have to deal with the consequences as best as you can. You're not the only one dealing with them. We're all dealing with them." Now, I think that's honestly the very first time Shauna has ever said anything that really chastises Taylor and calls her out. But yet in another call, Shauna is back to the enabling antics when Taylor is complaining of the jail lights being on all night and it affecting her migraines. Such a delicate flower, right? Shauna told Taylor, if those lights trigger an episode, that jail is going to have more problems. Maybe, just maybe, you should just hold your eyes open as much as you can so it will trigger another episode. They're not equipped to handle someone in the condition you used to be in. Freaks me out, guys. It really freaks me out. Taylor's ex-friend, Caitlin, also testified. Caitlin discussed how her and Taylor initially bonded over them both being diagnosed with MS. However, she started to notice that things were seemingly off. Whenever she would be hospitalized with her MS, Taylor would visit her and then be in the ER a few days later. It was like clockwork, apparently. But the difference was Caitlin was usually admitted and Taylor was never admitted. She was always sent home with pain management instructions. Taylor was also using a nose spray called Straddle, which apparently is a synthetic opioid painkiller for migraines. So Caitlin, who was majorly suffering, noticed how Taylor would go through the bottle very quickly, but she, someone who was admitted frequently, wasn't even using opioids. She also discussed them being in the same Jeep Club and Taylor cheating on Tommy during many of the Jeep Club weekends. Eventually, their friendship fell apart due to all of Taylor's lies and the distrust and things just unraveling. Stephanie Ott was another one of Taylor's former friends who testified. Stephanie actually hosted Taylor and Wade's gender reveal party. However, she was kind of suspicious, I guess, about what was really happening. When she first saw Taylor's ultrasound, the date on it was 2016. When she asked Taylor, Taylor immediately told her that it was a misprint and that the clinic had recently had 300 misprints, which how would she know that? And at one point, Taylor had told Stephanie that she had aborted twins that she had gotten pregnant with by Wade. Another time, the two of them got into another disagreement, and Stephanie apparently felt so unsafe around Taylor that she grabbed a knife from the kitchen just in case. Taylor was also very adamant to stay at Stephanie's house alone with her son one day. He was just 4 years old and sleeping at the time. Taylor tried 3 times to be left alone with him, but Stephanie would not allow it, which was definitely a smart move looking back on it, because who knows what she would have done or what she would have done to that child, or if she would have kidnapped that child, had she been given the opportunity to be alone with him. Taylor's boyfriend and, fictitious baby daddy, Wade, his mom, Connie, also testified during this sentencing period. The biggest thing in her testimony was the discussion of a letter from Taylor to her husband, Jimmy, while she was incarcerated. In that letter, Taylor said, "I ask you to forgive me, not that I deserve it. I'm asking God for forgiveness." And she also talked about a bond that she and Jimmy had in the letter saying, "I will forever cherish you. You are a wise man who has taught me so much." Next, a lot of people who knew Taylor best and saw her frequently and worked with her frequently testified. Old coworkers. So next they called up 2 people that she had worked with in the beginning of 2020. The 2 coworkers discussed the lies that she told, including saying that she had a sister take her own life and that she was missing work for a funeral, telling them that she had cancer, telling them that she was pregnant. I mean, lies on lies on lies. She also had one of those coworkers call Wade during that time, pretending to be at the bank. She wrote out a script for this employee to read off to let Wade know why the money was being delayed. Now, if you remember from the previous video, in early 2020, that was when they were having issues getting the money for that dream home, that Pelican Point property that she sold to all of his family, saying that they were going to live the dream. Because remember, she was a millionaire, but then her mom was hijacking her money and then the mafia was after her. Guys, I'm telling you, if you haven't watched that video, you need to. It is just it's way crazier than this, like times 100. The plant manager where she worked in HR also testified that she had a blank, hateful stare whenever she got angry. He said that when they let her go, he actually was watching closely in fear of what she might do. He said that she had a purse on her shoulder and that he was watching very closely because it would not have surprised him if she had something else in the purse, indicating a weapon of some sort. The CEO of Jennison Prime Care also took the stand and testified that Taylor was working for them in 2018. She was terminated within her 90-day probationary period after things just started not adding up. Apparently, she was trying to get opioids from the pharmacist under false pretenses that she was a nurse practitioner. After that, she was hired for a front desk position at Express, another healthcare place. On her application, she wrote that her greatest accomplishments were getting blood from hard-stick anxious patients and being with patients in OB who have lost a child. Yes, you heard that right. One of her biggest strengths is being with patients in OB who has lost a child. Guys, I can't. So with all of this medical drama around her, we now go into more of the testimony from experts. So on the 13th, they had an expert witness come in and testify. Forensic psychologist Dr. Michael Armbula testified that Taylor is not mentally ill. He did not interview Taylor personally until October 14th, but reviewed all of the evidence and records prior to that. During his testimony, he said, "I was looking for some kind of mental deterioration that would account for that, but instead, I saw that she stuck to her plan and there was no remorse afterwards." He went on to say, "In this case, there is nothing regarding any mental illness and nothing regarding intoxication, and Miss Parker fails in the category of fetal abductors, which are rare, but fall into a class of women who don't have a mental illness. The murders are planned, they're premeditated, they have plans for after." He did say that her actions before, during, and after the crime show that she does have a borderline personality. He said it would be known as cluster B type. Cluster B is typically characterized by a higher likelihood of behaving dramatically and drastically and erratically. Cluster B includes people with narcissism, antisocial personality disorder, and people who are known as sociopaths. Her former therapist from the jail was next to testify. She discussed an incident where Taylor was so angry that she had to remain handcuffed during their session. The therapist, Miss Parrish, said that Taylor went completely dark, that her eyes went completely dark, and her face was distorted. And then she sat down and she was not happy. She says, "We didn't meet for very long that day." She also testified that Taylor is not like a regular inmate. She quickly became top dog due to her ability to get what she wanted. Miss Parrish also described how Taylor seems to thrive in jail, in these environments, unlike most people. Taylor apparently also discussed with her how she lost someone too in the murder, but would never say Reagan's name during the sessions. She also told her therapist that she was wanting religious people on the jury who knew about mercy and forgiveness, but she mostly wanted carefree alternative. People who wouldn't care what the prosecution said about her. But her biggest thing was that she wanted no women or mothers on the jury. I wonder why. Maybe because a jury member who was a mother would be angry to hear of what another woman did to another mother and that mother's child. Taylor's previous doctor also testified. He testified that Taylor became angry when he would not diagnose her with MS, and then she went on to see 3 different doctors to try and get the diagnosis. Again, just like Looney Tunes. Now here's where things get a little bit interesting. They're already interesting, but you get what I'm saying. The next person to testify, and this was a major person on the stand, was Taylor's jailhouse girlfriend, Lana Addison, who we talked about earlier. Lana immediately broke out in hives when she got on the stand, and she mentioned how nervous she was. I'm guessing she's probably pretty fearful. When Lana met Taylor, she had no clue what she was actually in jail for. They became quick friends and would write notes back and forth to each other. In the notes, Taylor dove into her version of the crime. Now, we all know her version is not the true version, but Lana didn't know that. And one of the most notable things that Taylor told Lana during her schemes was that hearing Hannah's voice jogged her memory because that was the voice she had heard when she was drugged and taken to Reagan's house. I mean, how far can these lies go? Because remember, Hannah is the person she was trying to frame for this. So now she's saying, once I heard her voice, once we were in jail, I remembered that was her at the house. That was her who drugged me, and that was her who killed Reagan. It's crazy. The story Taylor mostly stuck to with Lana was that she was going to hang out with her friend the morning of the murder. She got up early, got gas at Walmart, and Wade called her saying that an insurance adjuster was coming for the fire, so that she needed to let the dogs out. Taylor told Lana that on her way home, she saw a car pulled over on the side of the road with flashing lights. She said that she stopped to ask if everybody was okay, and that the last thing she remembered was being drugged. She later claimed that she was put into Wade's car and that she knew it was Wade's car by the smell. She said that she was in and out because she was drugged, but when she woke up, she was in a carport or a garage. She continued switching narratives, but the gist is that she saw Reagan being attacked and that Reagan asked her, "Could you please help my daughter?" Taylor claimed that's when she remembered that she had a scalpel in her car. Yeah, coincidentally, conveniently. So Lana was obviously questioning this by this point and asked Taylor how she knew that her car was there. And Taylor had an immediate answer of, "I just guessed it." Taylor told Lana that while she was cutting the baby out, Kinley, who is Reagan's oldest daughter, came out. Taylor said she yelled at Kinley to go back into her room and then never saw her again. She said the baby's foot popped out first, but her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck and that Braxlin was blue. Taylor then said she held Braxlin up to Reagan with tears streaming down her face like a hero and said, "Look, here's your baby girl. Look, we did it. Here's your baby girl." Taylor then told Lana that Reagan smiled before taking one last breath. Literally like a movie scene, like she's the hero who delivers this baby, then Reagan takes her last breath and passes away. She said that she tried doing CPR, but it wasn't working, so that's when she ran out the door. Lana questioned her on why she didn't just call 911, and Taylor told Lana that she didn't know she had her phone until it slipped out from under the seat and hit her in the foot. So let's just pause here and talk about the inconsistencies here. If Taylor was really drugged, how would she ever be able to drive after the fact? If she didn't think she had her phone, why didn't she just run outside screaming? The Hancocks lived in a residential area, so surely someone would have heard her. Her stories clearly just once again do not add up. Lana went on to testify how Taylor said that other perpetrators were gang members and that Hannah had confessed to the crime. Remember, Hannah's the mentally ill inmate that she was trying to frame. And Lana believed her because, like most of us, it's hard to imagine one person can come up with such a crazy story. If it's that crazy, it has to be true, right? I mean, it's just bananas. She went on to testify about the documents that she was in possession of. She said, "When I learned what she was actually in there for and what was at stake, I had a confession in detail and names floating around, and it scared me. So I called my mother and asked to be contacted because I didn't want that in my hands. True or not true, I did not want any part of it." So that's one inmate and girlfriend's testimony. Let's talk about some other. Phyllis Dawson also testified. She was that one who had the 10-page document and that puzzle Sudoku book with instructions for the detective. She testified about an agent coming to her house asking if she had anything that Taylor had given her in jail. She initially said no, but once they told her that she could be charged as an accessory, she said, there it is, here's everything, and handed it all over. Shauna Ray also testified. If you remember from earlier, Taylor wanted Shauna Ray to copy the documents in her own handwriting, but Shauna Ray wouldn't do that and instead told authorities, "I feel that Taylor will try and claim insanity, but to me, this just showed the level of manipulation that she is willing to go through. She is constantly trying to put trustees into her schemes." She also testified that when Taylor found out is when her relationship with Taylor got bad. Taylor apparently tried to implicate her in a made-up plot to have Taylor killed in jail. Just pure dramatic, insane, telenovela, like I said, and once again disgusting the lengths that she will go to when she feels betrayed. So let's talk about that letter that Taylor sent to the FBI, because this letter was also shown in her sentencing period. In her letter, Taylor said, "I'm reaching out to correspond with someone within the Federal Bureau to offer my services in exchange for my own help. For the last year, I have been mingling with many different types of criminals." She said she was innocent, and then she said, "Part of this is for me and my future, or what's left of it. The other half is my obligation to her, or maybe I'm just mad as a MFer because I'm going down for something I didn't do. I've accepted that, but being a part of and seeing what unfolded and being unable to change the outcome, that's something I'll never get over because I can't understand it." Then she went on to say that she wanted to work for them on the inside and that she can play sexual mind games with men or women and that she is manipulative. Ding, 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 the only truthful thing you've probably ever said in your entire life, Taylor. She said that she runs the jail and that nobody crosses her. She went on to say, "I have a way of dissecting into a delicate balance of the mind, knowing it, connecting to it, and to them. It makes me good at what I do. In a year, I've allowed myself time to help educate myself, profiling what motivates a criminal. My favorite are the murders and their proxy. Your job is to follow up, looking into, monitor, correspond, pursue avenues, and through all of this, you put together a theory. You look at this as a problem, which is meant to be solved. And that may very well be true, but the way you measure it, cut and fit the pieces together until it works the way you want it to work, isn't how it always truly happened." Guys, okay, this letter was never actually sent, and it was found in her cell, but my mind is actually blown. The last thing that she should ever want is to have any sort of contact with the FBI. If she was smart, she'd try and stay far away from them based on who she is as a human being. But I'm guessing she read those murder books and thought she was a profiler, and it's just did you think you could manipulate the FBI too? It's one thing to manipulate a normal layperson. It's another to manipulate and get employed by the FBI. Now we get to one of the saddest parts of the sentencing period. And that was when the medical examiner, Dr. Stephen Hastings, who did Bracklin's autopsy, took the stand. He spoke on his findings and how he found 2 fingernails embedded in the placenta. The fingernails had purple glitter on them, and they were Reagan's fingernails. So in his professional opinion, the nails were consistent with Reagan being alive during the forceful extraction, as he called it. And not just that, but he came to the conclusion that she was actually holding onto the placenta as a way to keep her baby safe and not be extracted. He said that the reason Bracklin died was because of the traumatic extraction, which caused a hemorrhage beneath the scalp. He said that Bracklin was born alive, but died with her manner of death being homicide. And it is truly just so horrifying and sad to think about how hard Reagan fought in those moments, both for herself, but also for her daughter, holding onto the placenta, gripping it as you're being cut open. And remember that story that Taylor told about being a hero and how she took the baby and Reagan had her last breath? No, she is anything but a hero. She is a monster. The true hero is Reagan, with her determination and love for her baby girl that was proved by this medical examiner. After the state rested, it was now the defense's turn to try and show why Taylor did not deserve the death penalty. And Taylor showed up happy and ready to go. The first person on the stand for the defense was, of course, her enabling mother. She started talking about Taylor's childhood, saying that Tyler was in competitive cheerleading, basketball, and baseball in elementary school, that she was a great student, but how apparently in 3rd grade, Taylor started having stomach pains and said her stomach was always in knots. So her mom said that, come to find out, she had a teacher who wasn't giving her any feedback, and that's what made her stomach in knots. So my first thought when I heard this is for the love of all things good, is this woman really trying to use a teacher from the 3rd grade who didn't give feedback to this 3rd grade student as an excuse for part of the reason as to how Taylor got where she is now? Are we actually being serious here? Shauna then spoke about her divorce with Taylor's father, Mark, when Taylor was 12 years old. Initially, the two of them decided it would be best for the adults to go back and forth from the house so that the kids could have stability in the house. But Shauna said it didn't last long because she claims that Mark refused to leave the house, which then led to arguments in front of the children. She went on to discuss Taylor's weight issues, citing her grandma as the reason Taylor gained weight. She said that Mark's mother, Peggy, used food as a comfort, and when Taylor stayed there with her and her father, she tried to comfort 13-year-old Taylor with food. Shauna claimed that this led to Taylor being 250 pounds by the time she was 14 and entering high school. But Taylor dropped out of high school at 17 when she got pregnant with her daughter. Shauna also discussed Taylor having a hysterectomy. And this gets a little nutty, guys. Taylor was under anesthesia at the time the doctor needed a decision made, so Tommy and Shauna told the doctor to do what they needed to do. Later on, Taylor texts her mom asking if she could have her uterus. And her mom responded with, WTF, do you think it's detachable or something? Taylor responded, well, it would be a hysterectomy for you too. No more period, etc. The doctor would take it from you. And yes, it's detachable. Cut here, snip there. The same thing you guys did to mine. LOL. Guys, first of all, it's scary. But does this also seem like a little bit of foreshadowing to anybody else? I mean, big yikes here. Her mom went on to talk about Taylor's medical issues, but could not even say that she was bamboozled by Taylor's manipulation. It's sad to say that Shauna seems to have believed, and still seems to believe, every word out of Taylor's mouth. The only thing that Shauna said was that if she was normal, we wouldn't be here. Yeah, duh. If your daughter wasn't enabled, if she wasn't a lying, manipulative murderer, nobody would be here. That's for damn sure. When talking about the fake pregnancy, her mom said, there's not much you can do about a fake pregnancy. We didn't come up with a plan. We figured the lie would be exposed and that he, meaning Wade, would figure it out. Then said if she had come up with a baby, it would not have been hers. That's when the family would have done something and intervened. So let me get this straight. They were just waiting on Taylor to possibly steal a baby and then intervene. As a parent, part of your job is to call your kid out on their BS, and she clearly has not taken her role as a parent seriously, it seems, because how are you just going to go along with something like that and then wait for her to show up with a baby and then be like, oh, you know what, Taylor, what you're doing's wrong, I think you made a mistake here. Give me a break. Give me a break. But I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Now, after all of that, Reagan's Aunt Jamie was actually approached by Taylor's mom in the hallway of the courthouse. Shauna approached her and asked her, what the hell is your problem? Asked this to Reagan's aunt. Once again, just kind of like, making it other people's problems, not the fact that her daughter killed this girl's niece. It is unreal. I mean, their problem is that they lost a family member and her baby at the hands of this woman's evil, evil daughter. Just unbelievable that Shauna would even ask such a thing. She should have been walking out of that courtroom with her head down and ashamed of what a monster she created. In an interesting twist, Taylor's brother Zachary took the stand next, and he was very apologetic to Reagan's family and was truly respectful to the trauma that they are going through. In fact, he testified about having given Taylor a deadline to come clean about her lies. He was the only family member to confront her about her lies. He said he would accept whatever the jury decides and he doesn't make any excuses for her behavior. Now, it seems like Taylor's mom should take a few lessons from good old Zachary here because he's like the only one who is thinking straight here. The defense then brought up a psychiatrist, Dr. Grippon, and this doctor saw Taylor twice for a total of 5 hours while she was in jail. That's it. But he described Taylor as a pathological liar, saying she had a mix of psych disorders, including narcissism, personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and being antisocial and histrionic. He said that for Taylor, when the external world is not pleasant, her internal world is pleasant. He said that he could not predict whether or not she would continue to be a danger, but that she would be manipulative and would continue to lie. The last major defense witness to be called was a neurologist from New York. This neurologist testified that in his opinion, Taylor has severe lobe dysfunction. He said people with this frontal lobe dysfunction don't have the brakes of inhibition to stop themselves, and impulsivity is great. So they showed MRIs and CAT scans and EEG reports to prove this theory. When discussing her brain in depth, he said her neurons either didn't develop or were lost, and that there was no evidence of slowing in her frontal temporal lobe. He said that that causes impulsivity, and compared to Taylor's impulsivity to a car without brakes, saying she can't stop herself. He also tried to corroborate the MS story, saying that the inflammation in her lobe nerve could indicate MS. When the prosecutor fired back, showing normal brain scan findings by all of the previous doctors, he said that because they were not looking for the same indicators he was, that they were likely looking for stroke symptoms rather than organic brain dysfunction, and that that's maybe how it was missed. Now we get to closing arguments. Closing arguments began after the defense rested, and the state brought back 2 medical experts who spoke and dispelled much of what the defense was trying to argue. Then the prosecution asked to enter items found inside Taylor's cell as evidence. These items included the sunflower mask, a razor, and a map of the jail. Unbelievable. Reagan's mom, Jessica, took the stand during closing arguments. She spoke about the difficulties Kinley has faced since losing her mom. She said that Kinley has told them about things they didn't even know about the murder. And she spoke about Kinley's trauma signs, such as staring at pregnant people to make sure that they're not bleeding, sometimes even asking to see their bellies to make sure, and also not liking the photo in Jessica's locket because Reagan's red shirt looks like blood to Kinley. Just a traumatized little girl. Jessica told jurors, "It's never ending right now. Our family has always been very close. I wake up every day and I think that it's not real. We were happy the way our family was, and now Reagan's gone and it's changed everything. She's gone, number 1. And number 2, we're distant from other family members that we were close to, and it's just not fair. Watching Kinley grow up without her mommy, that's the worst part. I'd take all the pain in the world if I could take it away from her. It's so hard to explain, it's just a void. I have all these people around me and I'm alone. I'm alone." Jessica ended by saying that Kinley, who is now 5, is doing okay, and says she has her moments. "I don't think any of us can know what's going through her little head. Knowing what I saw, I can't get it out of my head, and I'm an adult. For Kinley to see what she saw, which we don't even know what all she did see, I can't imagine." One of the last things DA Kelly Crisp did was show the entire courtroom a photo of Reagan's lifeless, murdered body at the scene of the crime. Gasps could be heard from everyone, and many tears were shed. So the jury was sent to deliberate on Wednesday, November 9th, 2022, and within 90 minutes, they came back with a verdict. The verdict was read without any of Taylor's family in the room, and Taylor was sentenced to the death penalty. Not only was she sentenced to the death penalty, but she also had to sit through the victim impact speeches. That was the first time anyone has seen any sort of real emotion from Taylor. She could be seen shaking and crying while she was being handcuffed to go sit on the stand and listen to impact speeches. Prosecutors were seen hugging Reagan's family. For them, this was justice. This is what they had worked so hard for. And when Taylor was given the opportunity to speak, she chose not to. Not surprised. It just shows how selfish she is. The judge ordered her to be removed and taken to death row immediately. She was taken in the same van that she rode in every day to and from the courthouse. And Reagan's mom did a courtroom interview.
A heavy burden feels lifted. I feel like now we can start trying to heal. We don't have this over our heads. We know where she's going to be, we know where she's at, and she's taken care of.
That is Reagan Hancock's mother after a Bowie County jury sentenced convicted killer Taylor Parker to death for the murder of Reagan Hancock and her unborn baby, Braxlyn Sage.
The DA also did an interview.
I'm grateful for the jury. I think their quick verdict was a testament to the strength of the case that the Department of Public Safety put together. They went through the evidence and the law and felt that they had plenty of information to make that decision. So I'm very thankful that they saw the evidence the way that the state did.
Reagan's mother, sister, and husband gave witness statements as Parker cried on the stand. And after that, the judge immediately ordered Parker to be removed from the courtroom and taken to death row. Now, we are told Parker could be taken to the state prison in Gatesville as early as tonight.
Taylor was transported to Mountain View Unit, where she sits alongside 6 other women on death row. Life in Mountain View looks bleak, but Taylor's mugshot shows that she likely has no idea what she's in for, and that smirk is just disgusting. Also, just like her personality shifts, so do her looks. Every photo of her seems to be different. Life in Mountain View won't be a cakewalk for Taylor. Certainly not. Within 48 hours, all inmates are given a 148-page orientation handbook with all of the rules. They are kept in a solitary cell and not allowed to work until they prove themselves. Her cell is 60 square feet and only has a bunk, a combination toilet, sink and drinking fountain, a stool with a metal desk, solid steel doors, and a window. She will only be allowed out of her cell to shower and for 2 hours of recreation per day. If she eventually does prove herself and works her way up to, have the privilege of being able to have a job, which is limited to things like making blankets and pillows, the work will be done in the cell block. However, she will not be allowed to work unless the warden approves it, and they don't approve it unless the inmate follows all of the rules, is respectful, not manipulative, and has no safety threats. And for Taylor, all of that seems nearly impossible. She will not be able to just walk around and hang out and mingle with other friends and have these romances. She will only be allowed to eat in her cell, and if she leaves her cell, she will be strip searched first with arm and leg shackles and chaperoned by 2 guards. Now, personally, I know a lot of people have different opinions on the death penalty. I believe justice was served here. I'm not sure when they are going to execute the death penalty for her, but I believe she is a huge danger to society. I believe that she did some of the most horrific things anybody could ever do, and it's just like, she knows no bounds. She will go to any lengths. She will implicate people. She will use people. She will lie to people. She will harm people. Anything to have this sick fantasy or, these weird games in her mind come to life. It is very scary. So I'm just going to say it. I'm happy with the outcome. I think justice was served. And I just pray that Reagan's family can begin to heal and that her children, her husband, her mother, everybody affected by this can begin to heal and move forward and remember Reagan in a happy way and being the light of their lives. I know this was a long one, guys, so I appreciate you tuning in with me today. I'm going to be interested. This was a closed off sentencing hearing. All of the court dates and all of the testimony, nothing was filmed. It was really hard to get things as far as media. So I'm sure that things will start to be leaked over the next weeks, months, things like that. So depending on what the nature of that content is, I may jump back on here and share some more information with you guys. So check back or subscribe and turn your notification bell on so that you get notified and you don't have to check back. But we'll see. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. I know it was a long one, guys, so I appreciate it. Please leave your supportive comments for Reagan's family down in the comment section below, and please continue to keep her family in your thoughts and prayers. And if you get a call or a letter from Taylor Parker, hang up. Trash it, burn it, don't engage. Don't engage, guys. You don't want that toxicity in your life. All right, guys, thanks again. And until the next one, stay safe. Bye.